What the Pel is up, everybody? This is Pelicans Plus with Elliot Clough at Elliot Clough on Twitter, brought to you by Boot Crew Media and Hornitos. Hornitos, the official tequila of Pelicans Plus and Boot Crew Media. Make sure you subscribe or follow. Depending on where you're listening to this podcast, leave that rate and review on Apple Podcasts. And those of you on YouTube, Facebook, all other platforms, make sure you like, drop a comment, all that. We are going to get right into it on today's show. You can see it. Jake Madison and Justin Napoli of Pro Pels Talk joining us. Chris Connor of the Bird Rights is going to be here in a moment. And Jake, I have never heard you swear the amount that you just swore before we started recording the podcast, and justifiably so. How are you feeling right now? And then we'll bounce over to Justin. Jake, we can't hear you.
Uh-oh, sound, Jake. Still no sound.
That was good timing.
This is perfect.
Justin, why don't you go ahead then?
Yeah, what's up, guys? Been a tough day. I'm doing the countdown thing, right? Of 12 days, 11 days, 10 days till Pelicans basketball. I was really excited about today. And then just, first off, the Christian Clark article was incredible. Let's first off give him dibs, because I thought Christian Clark was absolutely fantastic with the way he presented the entire story. Now, moving forward, the Zion David Griffin thing is just not good. It's not a good situation. I mean, there's no hiding from it anymore. David Griffin, I thought, and I think Charles had tweeted this earlier today, but the last year was a disaster. This offseason, he recorrected a couple things from the Eric Bledsoe, Steven Adams trades. He had a great draft. Trey Murphy, Herb Jones, he had a really, really good draft. Summer League goes undefeated. Then he started hearing Zion's family's not happy and Zion this and Zion that. And we kind of got through that. And just 11 days away from our first preseason game and camp's about to start, this article drops, and it's just, here we go again. And it's just upsetting. It is. I'm pissed off and upset. So I know Jake wants to talk, but I'm pissed off.
That's the right attitude. Hopefully, I think you guys can hear me now. I'm looking at my mixer. Okay, sorry about that. No, I'm fired up. I try and be very level-headed in my analysis and not have too much fan in it. You also kind of lose some of that after 10 years of covering the team. If I were full on fan, I'd be so mad that David Griffin is still in charge and what he's kind of done with this franchise so far. And we'll get into all of this now, but you should not be happy about this if you're a Pelicans fan, because things have been handled very, very poorly. And I think that stems from the person at top with David Griffin.
Yeah, right there.
He's so mad. So mad. I'm so mad too, though. I love it.
Yeah. The thing, I think you nailed it, Justin. First of all, again, Christian Clark, awesome. That was incredible. Yeah. It's just the circumstances really blow. There's no other way around it. There's so much positivity around this point in the year, right? Going into the season, especially with everything that happened this offseason, getting rid of Steven Adams, getting rid of Eric Bledsoe, getting those draft picks, Trey Murphy, Herb Jones, home runs. Devontae Graham could do a lot for shooting. Jonas Valanciunas, massive upgrade over Steven Adams. We're all yes, let's go. So much positivity. We're excited. And then this shit drops. And it's just the floor fell out from underneath of all of us. And it's the people who are upset, and Jake, you nailed it. I just don't get it. In terms of being upset with Zion, because Griff is an adult, Zion's an adult, he's a man, yes, but Griff is however old he is. He's been in the league for a long time. He's been in the front office of different organizations for a while. Just figure the shit out and be normal and don't play the fucking piano.
You're not wrong on that. There's two sides to this, right? There's the David Griffin side of it, and then there's the Zion side of it. And Zion does deserve some blame and culpability in this kind of being a bit of a mess. But I'm also willing to give the all-star player who put up historic numbers last season a big pass on this. And when I look at David Griffin, I'm not as high on the team going into this year as you were, just talking about him. I don't have all of this positivity because he fixed a lot of mistakes he already made. I don't know if you necessarily give him credit for undoing mistakes he made, right? He got the team back to neutral, to even, and not ahead of that necessarily by moving on from Steven Adams. You traded a pick for Steven Adams, then you included a pick to get rid of Steven Adams. It's not great, right? That's a mismanagement of assets. And when you hear stuff about Zion's family maybe not being happy when they look at David Griffin doing that. I'm pissed about it. Can you imagine what they think about their son who's a player on the team, whose legacy is being built, and they're like, what the hell is this guy David Griffin doing? And that's not even getting into all the other stuff. Like that's the pure part of David Griffin's job of putting a team on the court. That's not getting into this fucking situation of him playing a piano, of giving the fucking Alchemist and trying to start a goddamn book club with the team, of doing all of this other stuff that it's just like, what are you doing here? He has one job, okay? Put a good team on the court and win fucking basketball games. It's not to be a philosopher. It's not to be a visionary. It's not to do any of this other crap. It seems like that's what he wants to do more. You know what? Your culture that he's trying to build, that he's hyped up, it's not working. In that article from Christian Clark, agree with you. And I told Christian this today, amazing work, like pure journalism there, right? There's a group text of people that work for the Pelicans making fun of David Griffin, their boss. Your culture fucking sucks if that's the case. And you haven't done what you're hoping to do. So cut that bullshit out. Like, cut it out. Like, this is maddening to me to see someone in charge doing all of this, and you're just like what the hell? I don't fault Zion for having a frosty relationship with a guy when it's like, hey, can we meet? And you try and play him the piano, and he's like, what the fuck was that? You're not going to want to talk to that guy again?
Listen, Jake, I love that you're fired up, and you're completely right. But let's bring it back all the way to the bubble, right? And so this is where it all started, and we had heard our talk show have heard a couple like things about the bubble that I won't share, but I didn't like. And it did start with Zion Williamson. Now, there was that period, right, where Zion had to go home and the whole COVID situation, and no one knew why, right? Nobody knew why. Was it a hamstring strain? Was it, personal? It was a personal matter.
Yeah, they said personal, like family emergency or something. It
wasn't a personal matter. Either he was hurt, out of shape, or whatever it may be. So Zion, coming off of an injury during that pandemic or whatever was that break, then got back into the bubble, was out of shape. I know they had that picture, right, where he was ripped and, oh my God, here comes Zion. And then like the whole 9 days happened. Like that was a disaster. Then this is where it all broke for me as a fan. When Zion played against Utah, they had a chance to win that game and they stuck to the 15-minute restraint, whatever had happened. And
yeah, they lost by 2.
Clearly it affected the entire team because they went 2-6 throughout the bubble. They had a chance to make the playoffs. They all said that, NBA catered this schedule towards Zion. Clearly, David Griffin did not care about winning right then and there. He cared about Zion and controlling Zion. Didn't let him play, say he was out of shape or whatever it may be. I know, Jake, you want to hop in here, but that's where it all started for me.
So a couple things from that, right? Like, look, he was out of shape at the bubble.
Absolutely.
He might have been in shape going in, but he lost something over the pandemic and then going into the bubble, and he deserves blame for that. And I'm going to keep that in mind for a second, though. In terms of that stuff, like if I were him, I'd be frustrated playing 3-minute bursts.
Yes.
And look, I get why they have him. Like, I don't blame the team for having that, right? But they probably could have managed his minutes better. You mentioned it. Save some of those minutes for the end of the fucking game to try and win.
Try to win the game.
We saw that during the regular season, right? You don't need to use all of those bursts up and not have him be able to close a game out when he's such a focal point. Is that on Gentry? Is that on Griff? Who knows? But it's a team, and I can understand why that would irk him. Like, I totally get it. The thing that I've seen people kind of turn into backlash on Zion is him being out of shape at that point, and like he was, and he deserves tons of blame for that, and he needed to handle himself better. Has he been out of shape since? Here's the thing. I've seen people being like, he's fat and out of shape every single year, and they're ready to trade him for that. He played over 33 minutes per game last year, right? He averaged 27 points on 61% shooting, 7 rebounds, 4 assists. We can go into all of the historic numbers. I don't care about him in the bubble anymore. I don't care about that story because you know what? He was good enough to play over 33 minutes per game and put up those numbers. I don't know what more people want from him, right? Like, we're not testing him in conditioning. Are you an effective basketball player out there on the court? So when I hear all the stuff about him needing to grow up, and I'm kind of going off on different things now, but not working out with the team and stuff, I'd like him there. But if he shows up in shape and can do what he did last year on the court, I don't really care. So when I look at that story from the bubble, yeah, he needed to be better, but I think he's moved on from that and improved a little bit, it seems.
No, and like, I don't have a problem with Zion right there. I just think that's where like it kind of got strained and David Griffin was controlling it and things like that. And then the whole, Gentry goes out, the whole coaching staff's fired, and then the new regime comes in, Stan Van Gundy, clearly doesn't work. The pandemic, there's a lot of things going on. But Jake, to your point, I do think that both David Griffin definitely deserves blame. But at the same time, I'm not saying that Zion Williamson does deserve a little blame here. He does show up out of shape. Last year, he was incredible, played through injuries, things like that. And I'm shocked the way that people have turned on Zion because he is 21 years old. But like hearing the family members chatter and all this different bullshit, like you got to win. No one, like I think we're all losing. Like Zion Williamson hasn't won shit. Neither is Brandon Ingram. Neither is David Griffin. Stop bitching, put your big boy pants on, and let's start winning some fucking basketball games. That's what it all comes down to. Sorry for cursing.
No, you're great. You can do whatever the hell you want. You can say whatever the fuck you want, Justin. So what it comes down to is these guys are professional basketball players, right? The first word, professional. Sometimes you got to suck it up and you got to do your job. And maybe you talk to your closest friends about stuff. Maybe you talk to your family about stuff because, you got to get stuff off your chest. It's kind of toxic to hold that stuff in, right? But I tweeted this today and it blew up for good reason. And I said, let's see, I'm going to see if I can find it. Make sure I get it.
Brandon Ingram?
At least Brandon Ingram just kept his beef with Stan Van Gundy between them. That's the big thing, because how many times has this happened? Like, have we heard stuff about Zion being unhappy? And then the thing about him, loving Madison Square Garden and all that. Like, it's just, that's like, it's starting to add up. That's where my frustration with Zion is. Like, it's not huge. If you're a star, if you win games in this league, if you win as a Pelicans player, if you lead this team to wins, all that frustration, and if the storylines start to dwindle, we're gonna forget about this by next year if it happens. And Chris Connor is joining the stream he's Piano Man.
I like that.
Something's wrong with you.
How you doing, Chris?
Nothing, man. Just enjoying my day. Got off work. By my name, you can tell exactly what I've been doing all day. So, happy to join the show, man. How you guys doing?
Yeah. We're frustrated, bro. We're frustrated. How are you?
I'm delightful, man. What is there to be frustrated about? Oh,
yeah.
I get it.
I think you know.
What's up, y'all?
Well, tell us, what are you thinking, Chris?
Hey,
how do you feel about the whole situation?
Man, I got a lot of laughter out of it, man. What like the piano thing, me being Piano Man. I mean, I think that there are a lot of ways to motivate young men. Okay, there are a lot of ways to motivate basketball players, NBA players, pulling them into a hotel in any form of fashion and trying to play a piano in a chance of bonding with them is not one of them. All of the other stuff in regards to the front office, man, none of that really surprises me or anything that it's, brand new. For me, the premise has been the same from when we talked about Lonzo, the last time I was on here, from when we talked about Willie Green, we talked about Trey Murphy, we talked about any of these guys. This season, they have to win. And maybe these latest great article by Kristen, by the way, but maybe these latest excerpts, situations, rumors, whatever you want to call them that happen, maybe it adds an extra bit of pressure, but I don't think it changes much. At the end of the day, the team has to find a way to make something shake, and you kind of figure it out from there.
Now, before Chris joined and Piano Man joined, sorry. Before Piano Man joined, I was talking about how it's just kind of snowballed, like all this effect of Zion being frustrated. This is like the third time that's happened, or like the story has broke. There was one from Shams, there's this from Christian, and then the Madison Square Garden thing, and then there's just the general narrative surrounding him that ESPN likes to put about him leaving for New York. Do you guys agree with the point? Like, do you hear what I'm saying, Jake, Justin? I mean, I kind of put it pretty short there, Chris, but do you guys hear what I'm saying? Jake, you go ahead.
So somewhat, right? Like, I'm not worried about what he's saying about Madison Square Garden when he's there playing the Knicks and a reporter asks him basically a leading question, like, what's he supposed to say? But when you look at David Griffin and how he operates, right? When does he kind of do something. And it's when there's media pressure on him because he doesn't like the bad press. So if you're Zion's family, let's say, and you need to get a reaction out of this guy and force his hand a little bit, like what else are you supposed to do really other than maybe leak some things? You know, this is a guy, again, who's tried to play the piano to him, who's handing out, copies of The Alchemist, which, is, I believe, Rob Pelinka's favorite book, too. And we make fun of that dude. So if you need to kind of force his hand, you know how they negotiate trades through the media and things like that, too, and try and build up leverage. I wouldn't be shocked if it's some of that. And I think sometimes that's a kind of thing to realize. We know David Griffin on Media Day is going to come out swinging after this Christian Clark article to try and kind of wrestle the narrative back, right? Like, that this is what is going to happen because that's what this guy cares about, right? He wants to be viewed in a certain kind of way. There's a strong arrogance and pretentiousness and smugness about him, right? And that's why he's probably not connecting to the players. So if you're Zion's family, I'd leak the hell out of things like this to try and force his hand and make him not trade for Steven Adams or dump Steven Adams, right?
When you say, Jake, when you say force his hand, what do you elaborate a little bit on that? Like, what are you saying? Force his hand, like doing what?
Okay. No. Fair. Look, this is actually pure speculation on my part. This is not me talking to his family, at least about that. Look, he clearly thinks he's the smartest dude in the room, right? Like that's what we get the sense of David Griffin. So is he going to listen to anybody? Like if Zion comes to him and is like, I need more shooting around me, is he going to necessarily listen? Right? Like, look at the centers he's tried to pair him with. First Derek Favors, then Steven Adams. Like, neither of those were a real good fit. And then you kind of got the same player in Steven Adams after Derek Favors to an extent, right? So do you need to ramp up?
Jonas is better, but it's not a drastic improvement either.
No, I don't think there's the right fit there. I think Jackson Hayes is a better fit there than say Valanciunas is, even if Valanciunas is a really good player. Side note, I would love to see Valanciunas feast on second units. Give me that, which they did a bunch of last year in Memphis. So if you need to look, David Griffin is sitting on these assets, first round picks and things like that. They haven't cashed them in. At a certain point, they go to waste, right? And you don't want to be using those to dump players that you use those picks for to get in the first place. You got to make a big move, I think. And I think maybe somewhat of it is that's what they want to see. So put enough out there that he might leave, that David Griffin feels a little bit desperate and doesn't get to try and see this vision through that he wants to see, and maybe speed him up a little bit. This is the same guy that when he took over that job in Cleveland, and then LeBron, without even talking to him, announced, I'm going back to Cleveland, was upset he was getting LeBron James. Right? Like he was upset about that because he wanted to build the team a certain way, and getting LeBron James meant you couldn't do that. And then he won a freaking title with this guy, and it seems like he's upset about this. Your job is to win a title as a GM. If that means you get LeBron, be happy about it. I think this guy just wants to do things his way, his vision, and he's going to go forth with this unless you kind of kick him off that path a little bit, which media pressure seems to do the trick with him.
And it's the same thing I just mentioned with Zion, but like with a lot bigger of a track record. It's just him doing whatever he wants despite other influences. Maybe give him credit with the Willie Green hire, I guess. But David
Griffin deserves credit on some things. It's not been like a dumpster fire, right? Like I like the pick of Jackson Hayes. We'll find about Nikhil. I like the Trey Murphy pick a lot. There's been some things he's done well. So it's not just like what the shit, right?
Right.
That interpersonal stuff, man, and the vision stuff, I think kind of blinds him to what he needs to be doing.
And what I was going to say was the SVG hire came because he wanted it, and he was told not to go that route by several different people. There were people in the organization that didn't want it, and he did it anyway. And we talked about this last time, Justin and Chris, we did a roundtable together where, I said that type of, micromanaging leadership, it never works. It never works. Never has it worked once in the history of the freaking planet.
And Elliot, that's what he's doing, and that's the problem. He's trying to micromanage not only just coaching, but everybody, players, medical staff. That's why when he got the job, he didn't want to do general manager. He wanted to do president of operations so he can control everything. And it hasn't worked. And it's to Jake's point, he's acting like he's the smartest guy in the room. And I don't need you to say these ridiculous. By the way, whoever runs that presser Twitter,
it's so
incredible.
good.
So shout out to you, whoever is running that. Major props. But anyways, we go to these press conferences and all we want is answers, and we just go down these crazy analogies. It's just give us a bold answer or a correct answer so that we can just move on. And it goes back to that point of no one still knows why Zion went home for those 9 days, and now it's some hamstring strain. Everything is just protected, and it's just so annoying.
Yeah. Chris, do you have anything to add to where we're at now?
Yeah, I think media day, man, it's always interesting, right? But I think media day is going to be very interesting because at some point, Griff, and I don't think it's a coincidence that I feel like we've heard more from Trajan in this all season, and just the surrounding pieces around Griff, around the brain trust than we've had in the past, because it's on Griff at this point to realize that people are tired of they're tired of the political side of things, and that doesn't it works when you're when you're in Phoenix and you're continuing to be around something that's sustainable success, right? One of his favorite terms, right? I know you hate that, right? But it works in Phoenix. It works in Cleveland. It works in Cleveland when you have the best player in the world, one of the greatest players in Cleveland, one of the greatest players of all time, and you end up helping to make some moves that win a championship. But when you're in what appears from the outside, and you have to wonder now on the inside, to be dysfunctional with a team that has underachieved for some folks and have, they're entering year 3 with a very, with an all-time athlete and another all-star, and you fired 2 coaches and you haven't been able to keep the same center, but the center you drafted is one you really want to have start, but he's not ready yet. You lose Lonzo Ball, that whole situation, how that unfolded. It's time for him to be either as honest as he has ever been in his life being in the NBA, or it's time for him to move to the side and let others go ahead and, I guess, move forward, do more talking, and him just say less, man. People are tired of, the runarounds with the speeches. They're tired of him saying what they're going to do, what they're going to be, that they're going to beat asses, making these, declarative statements, and running through the media games when the stuff on the floor is not matching it. You wouldn't look at any other situation, whether David Griffin ran it or not, and you look at how New Orleans has trailed in a situation when they're on their 3rd head coach in 3 years and say that's successful. I just think at the end of the day, man, it's literally put up or shut up. Like, this is it. This season, this year has to work. And does anyone here believe that if it doesn't, Griff might be out of here?
Yeah, I say absolutely.
Yeah,
He's had negative news for the past 2 years. He hasn't, Jake. Yes, he has, and Chris, he's drafted very well. Other than that, what else has he done well? What has he done well? Have I missed something? That he hasn't brought in any good free agency. He was big on the veteran. We got to get a JJ Redick and a Derek Favors and these type of guys. And yeah, that's fine. At the end of the day, that doesn't win you games. JJ Redick was a disaster last year. And he had a really good year his first year, and that's fine. But Derek Favors was a shell of himself. Steven Adams was a shell of himself. At what point when does winning start becoming a thing? Because he hasn't done any of that.
To Jake's point about him wanting to be this genius and handing out the fucking alchemist and playing the piano and all this, it's all theoretical. And then when it's put into practice, it doesn't fucking work. With these free agents and such, sorry. It's especially
should be pissed.
A lot of F-bombs, Chris.
It's the Steven Adams, it's the Eric Bledsoe, it's the Derek Favors, it's the JJ Redick, because it's theoretical leadership, theoretical, defense, and it just doesn't work in practice.
No, and then there's all the double speak from him, right? That's what we hate about him. No, go ahead, Chris.
No, my question is, and it's clear. I want to know you guys' thoughts on this here. I've heard this, I've read this, and I felt this early on. Griff cares more about being the guy that people tag for the success than if the success happens at all.
He's Jerry Krause.
He's happy.
I don't think he wants to be looked at as like a team architect, right? Like I don't think he wants to be looked at as the guy that actually. I don't even think it's that. I think it goes beyond that, and that's way worse. Like I don't think he wants to be looked at like what's his legacy to him. How does he want to be remembered? And I don't think it's even like the guy who built a championship team. He wants to be like a leader of men. He wants to be a culture builder. You know who I want to run my team? A dude who wants to win a fucking title.
Jerry
right?
Krause did that, by the way. He won 3 or 4 of them. How many win? He did that. So
yeah.
He isn't doing that.
But like Griff wants to like transcend this, right? And you hear it in his doublespeak, like, and that's why I think he cares so much about the perception of him. This is a guy who gave a press conference at one point last year that was like, "Oh no, we don't want to play the young guys just to develop them," and said that on the fucking broadcast, and then fired Stan Van Gundy because he wouldn't play the young guys. And I'm just like, I just don't trust any. That's where the snake oil salesman part comes out of him, right? Like you just don't trust anything that motherfucker says, and that's disappointing. You could just not say anything or just honestly shoot people straight, right? Like shoot people straight. It's not hard. I tweeted out, drop the gimmicks, drop the bloviating around TED Talky topics and crap like that. Never say the word synergy again, and just be a fucking human to the person you're trying to connect with.
And that's why Willie Green will be a home run higher, in my opinion, because that's what he is.
That's what we hope, right?
I mean,
it's one of the worst things
you got in that
do
cup,
when you're a public figure.
No, just water. So one thing I'll tell you guys right now to consider with this, because look, I don't know, Griff seems like a guy who can keep his job, right? Like, just seems like a dude. Like if they're bad this year, he should be fired. There's no doubt in my mind about that. I'll respond to that question in a second, but like he should be fired. I don't know if he will. There was a moment in Anthony Davis's tenure, and I can tell you this for a fact, that if they had fired Dell Demps that year, things probably wouldn't have gone the same direction that they did. It's not saying that he would have stayed, but things probably wouldn't have gotten that bad, and he might have given the team a little bit more time to figure things out than he did. But they didn't make that. They didn't pull the trigger on Dell Demps. They kept him around longer than he should have been. You can't repeat that mistake here with Zion. If it's time for Griff to go, the organization needs to do what we give Griff credit for, and that's undoing your own mistakes, right? We give Griff credit for trading away Steven Adams for firing Stan Van Gundy. We should be looking at the organization if we think this is a mistake and holding them to task for that, because that's what we did to Griffin, right? Like we would give the team credit for firing David Griffin when they realized it wasn't the right hire. That's the credit we're giving Griff. I don't like that, but that's what we should kind of be holding the organization to an account for with all of this. But no, like I'm not out on Griff. I think he's done some good things, right? But when you factor in all of this other stuff with him, if we were just evaluating him on the on-court stuff, I'd be like, no, he deserves a little bit longer. When you factor in everything else, like, no, miss me with that. I'm just over this dude and not trusting what he says, but him wanting to come out and deliberately lie to you to make it sound good.
Now, when we can keep going down this route, what'd you say, Chris?
Passion as a public figure is one of the worst things you can do, and want people to support you afterwards. Like you can't, and I think that's the problem. It's not that, he's just untrustworthy. It's that things that have been said that when you hear them, it's like, no, that's not true. That's dishonest. And you say it with intensity and passion as if you can manipulate the minds of so many people around you. If you're doing it with a fan base, you know he's doing it inside that building. And it's clear that the problems that are on the inside, it's no coincidence that it's starting to take shape for how he's viewed on the outside by fans and, writers, bloggers, reporters, so on and so forth.
You know what, Chris, the way you just summarized that, to me, that sounds like a tyrannical dictatorship built on the foundation of lies. Like if we look at the history of the world and, all the really bad leaders like Stalin and all that shit, like that's what it is. This is a much smaller scale, much lower consequences. But That's what it sounds like to me. It's a foundation of lies, and a foundation of lies will always crumble. Go ahead, Justin.
Listen, I think we're getting, and I'm glad that we're talking about David Griffin stuff, but can we talk about something? I think one of the followers that's watching had asked this too, and it's a really good point.
Look at this.
Yeah.
Family, culture, synergy. Do we ever hear the word integrity? Boom. Jason DC7 on point. Go ahead, Justin.
So, we're talking about David Griffin. Someone mentioned this today. Like, yes, David Griffin, he deserves a lot of blame, but to Jake's point, like, he's done some good things. Can we talk about one thing that's really bothering me, and I don't think it hasn't been talked about enough, is that if this is true, Zion Williamson basically ghosting all of his teammates this summer. I think that's complete and utter bullshit. And like, I know, Jake, you'll probably say, I don't know if it's true or not. If it is true, and I do know something about the BI in Phoenix with Vincent and stuff like that, and he didn't show up. I think that is a really bad look. I don't care if you're 19, 20, 21, 20, like, you don't leave your teammates hanging out to dry. You just don't do that. That's just being a bad teammate. And he's supposed to be the face of this franchise, and you're going to be ghosting other players, especially like a Brandon Ingram? Absolutely not. Like, if that is true, that's complete and utter bullshit. Y'all go ahead.
He's come out all the time and said he loves to hoop. That's come out of his mouth. Everybody has talked about since he's been introduced to us how much he loves the game, loves the history of the game, loves basketball. If you love to hoop and your job is centered around playing basketball, hooping with a certain amount of guys, and they are putting together workouts for you to do such things so your job can be done hopefully to the highest level when the games count, why wouldn't you be there? Especially when you're at a goddamn USC game and nobody has any idea what's that about.
Chris, if Brandon Ingram, he is the leader of the team. I don't care like what everybody said. Brandon Ingram's the leader of the team. He's an all-star, all this different kind of stuff. If he invites you to his personal house to do workouts, I don't give a fuck who you are. You go. It's Brandon Ingram.
Didn't BI go to the finals and watch the finals at that point in time? Like, if Zion's such a lover of the game, wouldn't you think he'd want to go? Like, I understand being hounded by media and stuff, but still, it's just chicken shit. Elliot, me and you had no, Jake. I'm sorry, I'm gonna let you go in here a second, but Elliot, me and you had a conversation about, is it a big deal that Zion didn't show up to the summer league and Ja did, all these different guys. Now, like, looking back on it, maybe it was a big fucking deal because literally everybody else was there. Devontae Graham, Josh Hart, Brandon Ingram. Go down the list. Like, they were all there. Was there. Yep.
Everybody.
Look. I agree with you to an extent on it. I'm not ready to crucify him over this just yet. Like, I'd like him working out with the team. He should be there. I agree with you. But if he also shows back up again and puts up the numbers he put up last year, like, I don't know. I can't get that upset over it because ultimately I care more about him and his production on the court than anything else. And it seems like he's very capable of doing that. If he shows up out of shape, oh man, I'm going to turn on him quickly. If we're at media day on Monday and we're in the Smoothie King Center and he's not looking right, or we get to that first preseason game or clips of training camp and it's like something's off here, oh man, I'm going to turn on him like I've turned on David Griffin with this. I promise you that. I'm just not there yet. I need a couple more days before we get that, and I need to see it. If he's working out, like, I'm less worried about it. I'd like him with the team, but maybe David Griffin's made it so damn weird that he just wants to kind of stay away. In terms of some of the, like, I had someone just tweet at me being like, how come we've seen no workout videos of him this offseason? And it's like, I think we're reading a little bit too much into it when it comes to that stuff. We'll find out, though. Like, maybe there's a reason why, and it's because he wasn't. He also does at times seem like a guy who really struggles kind of with the level of fame that he has, too. And I think for that tries to be a little bit more private than we'd like. Like, I've seen people screaming at him that he hasn't made some big grand gesture after Hurricane Ida, which, yes, you'd like to see that from him, but it's not his job to fix a lot of this stuff either, right? So I think because of who he is, there's a little bit of an unnecessary burden placed on him. And again, it comes down to, he was in shape last year to put up those numbers. And even if it wasn't that in shape, I'm kind of okay with it given how well he played. And it's ultimately, when you look at this team last year, he wasn't the reason that they weren't good. And so as long as he's not that, I'm kind of going to give him a pass because it's just kind of what you have to do with some of these guys to a degree, right? Like, look, it's not a big market where you're going to get big name free agents and all of these people coming here. If this is the best you got to make do with it, right? Even if it's not ideal, I think. Yes, I'd love him working out with the team. He should be. I agree with you. But but he's not, it's not like if Nikhil wasn't doing that, then I'd be like, what the hell is going on here? You're not an all-star. You're not an all NBA level guy. You need to be doing that. For the all NBA guy, I give him a little bit more of a pass. And when I kind of just look at the overall state of the franchise and kind of where they fit into the grand scheme of the NBA, I'm a little bit more leeway with it. If it becomes an issue, like every single year where he's showing up out of shape or he doesn't have good chemistry with his teammates, then I think I'm going to get there. But we'll probably get a good idea of that, I think, on Monday at Media Day.
What are you guys most looking forward to on Monday at Media Day? Justin, I saw you laugh, so I'm going to start with you.
I think the answer is pretty basic, but I want to see David Griffin, Zion Williamson. I am excited to meet Devontae Graham and Valanciunas and those type of guys. And I'm really excited about Trey Murphy too. I know we're going through a lot of negative stuff right now, but God, I'm really liking what Trey Murphy and Herb Jones. I've heard some really good things about them and what they did in the summer league. But to your question, it's going to be all eyes are going to be on Zion and David Griffin, and including myself.
Chris?
I don't think that we're, he's kind of stayed in the shadows. I think, at least from when I watch people talk about the team, they're focused on the roster, or they're focused on the organization, or they're focused on the superstar elements, but not a lot is being said about a guy that was told to us and that was told, we saw different players speak up for him, whether it be publicly or you saw it through sources and reports about the type of coach he was going to be and could be. And I think I consider him somebody who is not going to play the political game in regards to some of his answers. I think you'll be able to see where his mind is in regards to this team and get an early preview on some of the things to expect. And I just hope that the right questions are being asked, because I think he's going to play a large part, a large role in a lot of these things. He could be someone who unlocks Zion in multiple manners, right? He can be the one from Brandon Ingram on the defensive side of the ball to help him get engaged just with Zion. I mean, he's the one that's going to have to, no matter how involved David Griffin is with the rotations. Willie's gonna be the one mainly game in and game out, making these things, making adjustments, and those are the things. Once these games are starting, we're gonna be paying attention to that a lot more than a lot of this off the court stuff. So I want to hear from the coach, and I think he can make a huge impact on where this team goes. And I'm not sure if it's been talked about enough since after retired.
Jake.
Look, I'm going to be curious to hear David Griffin talk. Does he take a different tune, or is it still the same Ted talking David Griffin here? And I don't know. I can't wait to see how he's going to look at Christian Clark probably on Media Day as well, because that's going to be kind of funny. And then Zion, those are the two biggest things here. It's Zion. Like, is he in shape? If he's in shape, I'm less worried about this, because he's probably going to dominate like he did last year. I saw someone in there being like, you need to be a world-class athlete or you need to be in world-class shape to be an NBA champion. Stop giving Zion a pass. I don't know what more you need from this dude than what he put up last year, right? Like, I'm going to give him a pass when you do that. I'd like more defense, but I think he improved over the course of the year, and I think that'll come, and most second-year players aren't good. So it's like, it's him and Griffin. Those are going to be the big storylines, I think, to start training camp. And then I do think it'll shift to Willie Green and what he's able to bring to this team and get these guys out once we get to like the first regular season game or so.
Ellie, I don't mean to cut you off, but can we talk about, like, real quick, can we talk about Willie Green's like tenure so far? First day on the job, Jackson Hayes gets arrested. Obviously Zion Williamson and the family. Now Zion Williamson, David Griffin. But like, and then he goes perfect in summer league. Like, Willie Green, the saint of a man, hasn't said a single word from what we've heard. He showed up to work. Everyone loves him. So like, that is a very positive. We've heard some pretty good things about Willie Green. So that's a big positive for this team.
It is. And a summer of what's, it's been a mixed bag of emotions. We'll just say that. Willie Green has been a major positive in my mind's eye. I haven't heard anything negative. And in terms of the coaching hire being what the Pelicans needed, that's just who Willie was. I mean, in terms of interpersonal relationships, in terms of experience, in terms of coaching and playing the game. So I'm excited to hear what he has to say. Sorry, I didn't mean to click that. I'm excited to hear what he has to say, but also to reiterate what Jake said, when Christian Clark asks the question to Griff, I am very excited to see that. And then the shape of Zion. I mean, Zion's shape is just going to be completely indicative as to where he's at with this team and this coming season, both mentally and physically. Like, it's if he comes up in shape, I will be way more inclined to think that he's invested, because if he's out of shape, then it's just it's done. I mean, it's over. Like,
if he's out of shape, things should turn against him. Like 100% fans should be really, really upset. If he comes in and he looks ready to put up close to 30 points a game, like, yeah, I'd like him with the team, but whatever.
Superstar status. Yeah, I agree. I'm with you.
You're not wrong, though, in saying he should be doing that. Like, you'd like to see that maturity and leadership from him, and he's just not there yet. If that never comes, that's going to be kind of a big mark against his legacy and ultimately his career in the NBA, I think. I'm also not necessarily going to like look at a 21-year-old and be like, you should be doing all of this stuff, especially in like COVID stuff that they've all been dealing with. So there's still like, I'm out on David Griffin. I could be out on Zion, but we've got more time there.
That's crazy. That's crazy, Jake. I cannot believe you just said that. You're just out on David Griffin. That's awesome. Good for you. Seriously.
I've been out on him for a little bit, to be perfectly honest. Like,
I'm glad. I just, good for you. That's all I want to say.
Bold. I like it. Now, I mean, Chris, you said it to start your time on the show today. And I mean, I think everybody was tweeting it more or less that winning is the solution. Is that the only solution where we're at? Jake, you responded to my tweet today. You said there is a solution. It's like
no. Your tweet made no sense. That's why I said you were like, your tweet was like, there's no one answer to everything that's going on, but winning will fix all of it. And I was like, wait, that's contradictory, right? Or did I misread
I must have had it. Okay, I must have had a typo. Okay, sorry.
I was like, wait, so there is one answer.
I got like no interaction, and I was like, what the hell? That was poignant and succinctly written. It was bullshit. Go ahead. Go ahead, Jake. Did you have anything?
Oh, look. Winning will really help things. It's going to really help. I don't think it'll fix everything. Clearly, David Griffin has some struggles interacting with people and maybe has burned some bridges around the league. They struck out in free agency. Maybe part of that's due to David Griffin, right? And the stuff with JJ Redick coming back a little bit and some of those things. Like, winning will fix a lot. But if that's stuff that's going on behind the scenes, if your staffers are making fun of you in group text, like there's deeper issues there that like winning won't fix. It might fix 85 to 90% of it, but there's going to be some things that maybe it holds it back a little bit. And I think that can be part of the issue, but winning will definitely really fucking help.
Elliot, can you pull up that question real quick by, I think, J Park LSU? I'm interested. I want to hear Chris. I want to hear Chris's answer.
We kind of talked about it, but
it's
yeah.
fired this year.
This year, though.
I think because I actually believe that the team is going to surprise them in the way that they play basketball. Like I actually have grown to believe in if key guys are playing, I need to see Trey Murray. Like I really do believe that they have enough. I think certain guys are going to make steps, and I believe in Willie Green enough to where I think this team will take a major step forward. I believe between Nikhil and Jackson, one of them, if not both, are going to break out. So no, but piggybacking off of what Jake said, it's like if I'm at a company and we're making money, the company's successful, but I'm not happy with my superior. I'm not happy with my day-to-day in regards to my boss. I don't believe and trust in him to continue said success. Because 1 year isn't enough, right? If you're Zion, if you're Brandon, like if it's just a year, if I don't trust that man or that woman that's in that position, I mean, I believe I'm talented enough to go somewhere else and win and be in a better spot in regards to just a
a better and deeper environment. So, and I actually asked this question. I asked something similar to this on the spaces that we did earlier. Because it's very important to know. Like people say, winning cures all, but does it? How much it might cure? It might cure a lot of it, but if those people don't trust that man and they just so happen to be playing really good basketball, how long can it last unless you're winning championships? That's the only way. Is winning 47 games gonna do it alone? No. So there has to be some repairing and some healing and some overall changes, I think, outside of that, and a level of maturity out of certain guys, including Zion. Zion is gonna have to be he's going to have to mature as an individual in regards to making his own decisions, speaking for himself, and holding himself more accountable, more so than the things around him. Like the injury shit made zero sense to me when part of the reason reportedly you got hurt in the beginning in that first year was because you came to camp out of shape. So things like that, he's going to have to be able to be more self-aware of down the line, hopefully, or none of this shit is going to work anyway.
Chris, I want to piggyback off of your comment because I was just thinking about this. Zion's always been this golden child, right? Ever since high school and the YouTube clips and then at Duke, and he has this big, great smile. He's great with the press. Monday is not going to be this all like, pat in the ass, like, hey, welcome back to New Orleans. It's going to be hard hitting questions. So I'm really, really interested to see, Zion Williamson hasn't really faced a lot of adversity when it comes to media. He's like, he's got the $1 million smile. I'm really interested, and I know Ellie, you asked this earlier, I'm interested to see how he responds to these hard-hitting questions because I think this will be the first time in a very long time that he's going to get challenged.
That's a great point. Absolutely. Yeah. I didn't even think about that. That's very true. I think what it comes down to, the question was, do you think Griff gets fired this year? And we've all talked about the solution being winning. And Jake, you said that it could cure a lot, maybe not cure all, but it could cure a lot. Is there a scenario where the team really flips the script, wins a bunch of games, they still don't like Griff, and Griff gets fired? Like, is that a possibility? Like, are we talking about that? Because there's a major difference between in the hierarchy that is a corporation or an organization, toxicity at the top versus one person that's a little toxic on the bottom, because toxicity at the top trickles down. And if it's really going to affect the team to where, maybe they win 47 games and somebody feels like we could have won 55 games if I didn't hate the people I'm here with, Like, is that a scenario? Jake, you go ahead.
Yeah, they could easily fire him if they do really well. Look, he laid the groundwork and then you move on from him. Again, look at the stuff with Gerson Rosas. And if you saw my face kind of freak out, it's more came out about that as we were talking about this, for creating like a toxic culture within the Minnesota Timberwolves. You don't want that. And if they might win games, but he's still kind of being weird to Zion and Zion's in shape and dominating, you probably move on from that dude. You pick the star player over the front office person, or at least you should, every single time. So it's going to come down to, for David Griffin, can he repair this with Zion Williamson, or can at least they find like a good working balance, right? Like they don't need to talk every day. I don't care if they do. They don't need to be buddy. If it's just more Zion goes out and plays and David Griffin leaves him alone, that can be fine. But you've got to find that right balance, and it's got to work for everybody. And if Zion doesn't want a frosty relationship and wants to be buddy with the GM, you still got to think about moving on from him too. It's all going to depend on kind of that stuff with it. So yeah, I could see them doing well and then them being just like, no, like we just can't keep this dude around because he's kind of grating. Same thing, with Stan Van Gundy, right? Like they just hated that guy. You had to move on from him.
Chris.
Look, weirder things happen, and they feel as if they can make an upgrade. Look at Monty Williams, for example. Years and years ago, right? The team makes the playoffs. First year making the playoffs with Anthony Davis, and they move on for a bunch of reasons, behind the scenes. But overall, they thought that they were making an upgrade with Alvin. So look, I definitely think that it's a possibility. I can't wrap my head around it. I just feel like with how connected he is with so many things that have been, or it feels as if that he's been connected to and putting this thing together. It's just hard for me to see a scenario, at least this year, where they win, they make the playoffs, they have an exciting first round series or something like that, and they say, all right, Griff has to go, unless Zion and company go to ownership and straight up say like, okay, we're winning, we had a good year, but I want better than this. This isn't going to work. He has to leave. Unless an ultimatum is given.
Yeah. Justin, where are you at?
I don't even know where I'm at anymore. I'm so tired, man. I just want the season to start. I really do. I'm now not answering your question. I'm so sick and tired of all this goddamn negativity around this franchise. I've been a season ticket holder now here for 6-7 years. I've lived in the city for 30 years. I'm so sick and tired of just talking about negativity all the time. All the time. It's all we're talking about is fucking negativity. I mean, every single time we have to talk about Zion being traded or who the right coach is or what is David Griffin doing. Like, I just want to win basketball games. Literally, that's all I want to do is I want to cheer them on and win basketball games. And I did want to talk about this, but Jake, I did see that breaking news with the misconduct and everything going on with Rojas and stuff. So that's pretty crazy stuff right now.
Yeah, apparently he had an inappropriate relationship, is what it said on Twitter.
With his banging his personal assistant is probably a good way to get you fired. But they also talk about how he made decisions kind of in a silo and didn't bring people in on it, and that kind of grated on people. So probably more of the former and less of the latter, but that probably didn't help things at all.
Maybe Griff isn't so bad. I don't know.
There's no way.
So look, at least it's not as bad as that.
That's positivity.
There's no way Jake has water in that cup. There's no way. There's no fucking way.
There's
no way that's water. Not.
This isn't my show. I don't need to be professional here.
Not a Boot Crew Media, Jake. Absolutely not.
Okay, now we're getting close to about an hour here. So let's look a little bit more to the immediate future. Where do things, like, how does this correct? Is there a way to make this to look at this coming season in a positive way? Is it the fact that Devontae Graham and Jonas Valanciunas were out of the roster, and it's an upgrade? Like, it might not be a massive upgrade, but it's an upgrade. Trey Murphy, hopefully going to be awesome from what we saw in the summer league and his year at Virginia. Like Herb Jones a lot. Hopefully Najee Marshall continues to grow. And Jackson, maybe taking a leap. Is there a way for us to come away from this situation as members of the media that cover the Pelicans and Pelicans fans, and just, maybe it goes this way, maybe it goes that way? Is there a way to correct this complete, off-road, wherever the hell we're at right now? Justin.
Yeah, listen, I don't know personally the David Griffin Zion Williamson relationship. It doesn't really matter to me. Relationships can be, fixed and all that different kind of stuff. But I just think this team really needs to get back to basketball. I think David Griffin, as Jake pointed out earlier, do your job, let other people do their job. Okay, let Willie Green coach the goddamn team. Let the players play. Let the assistant coaches go. Like, I keep hearing all this, like, front office people are in, like, during practices and different kind of stuff like that. Like, front office guys, stay in the front office, do your job, and let the other guys do their job. That's how you become. You got to change this culture. David Griffin came in here and the won't bow down bullshit and everything like that. Just stop. Okay, play basketball. Let the coaches coach. Let the players play. Let the front office do their job. That's how you fix everything. It's very simple. Stop micromanaging. Be an adult. Don't play the piano for a 19-year-old kid. I don't know. That's very odd to me. And just play basketball.
Chris.
To have to believe in his vision, and that's going to start in his vision. I'm speaking in regards to Griffin. And that starts with the moves that were made this year working. Like, there's a scenario that happens, right? Let's say Devontae Graham just doesn't work out. Lonzo Ball is having the time of his fucking life in Chicago. Like, that only adds flame to a dumpster, that could be, right? I mean, like, the moves have to work. And if that ends up helping this team win basketball games, I think you can, those guys are going to be, you can regain trust while also doing some changing of your own. Like Justin said, if some of the micromanaging ends, Griff knows the stuff that's out here being said about him, man. I mean, he's more than aware. His ears are everywhere. He's more than aware to know the negative things that are being said about him. If some of those things change, if he's being genuine with these guys, on top of these moves, bringing in Jonas, drafting Trey Murphy, not signing and trading Lonzo, Garrett Temple, and Sat, and bringing in Devontae Graham. If those things end up working on top of them winning, and he just levels back a little bit, I mean, I think you can slowly start to piece things back together. But it's gonna start with that man. And you can talk about winning. You can talk about so many of the other things that are going out, but the moves that were made from coaching down to the players have to work. And if they work, I think everything else, hopefully down the line, is seasonable.
Jake.
Yeah, look, I think there's a way this season can end really well for New Orleans. I think this season really for them comes down to internal growth that they're banking on. Internal growth from Nickeil Alexander-Walker being a starter, Kira Lewis Jr. at least being a competent backup, and these young guys that they've invested draft picks and developmental time in playing well. And if they do that, like if Nickeil is a positive starter, they're going to be a decent enough team to at least get into the play-in tournament and maybe push for 8, 7, 6. And kind of get away from that, but they're banking on the internal growth. While Devontae Graham is nice, is he a huge upgrade or an upgrade at all over a guy like Lonzo Ball? I don't think Valanciunas is a huge upgrade and doesn't fit too well with this team. So they're banking on Nickeil, Kira, Trey Murphy, and some of these other young guys they have on the roster, Najee, to make that leap. If those guys make that leap, they're on cost-controlled team deals and they're quality starters when they're young. You're set for a little bit with that. That gives you so much flexibility, but it's an if, right? Like we don't know what Nickeil's going to do. Is he going to level up his game this year? We're hopeful, but if he doesn't, then it's going to start to look like they're spinning the wheels a little bit, I think. So this season comes down to that internal growth. If they actually take that leap that the team is hoping for and that we kind of expect from some of these guys, they're actually in a pretty damn good spot, to be perfectly honest, as negative as I am around the team. And it really just comes down to that.
I was hoping to end on a positive note, and then we get this comment, and they know this is my niche on Pels Twitter. Why you gotta bring up Wenyen, man? That's my thing, dog. I'm a Wenyen stan. Come on, man. Anyway, ending on a positive note, that's where I want to go from here, because Twitter's gonna be negative, pretty negative for a while now, until the season starts and things start to correct and this team starts to win. It's gonna be ugly. It's going to be really ugly for the time being. I'm very excited for Monday. Those of you, I'm sure we're all going to be all over this press conference, all of us that are on right now. And if you're listening to this later on, subscribe, drop a comment, like, review, all that. We are going to head out now. Justin from Pro Pels Talk, at Pro Pels Talk on Twitter. Chris Connor, the Impatient Bull from the Bird Rights, and Jake Madison at Nola Jake from Locked On Pelicans. Gentlemen, this good way to get back to the round table. Some 3 stars right here. It just happens to be shitty circumstances. Thanks, boys, for joining.
Time, brother.